Great to have you on the. There's a period up there where his name was. I thought that was the name he gave. Oh, there it is. This is David up there now. Okay, he's responding. If you missed it, one of the first call of the day was from a guy, much like some guests that came to my house for dinner one night that I didn't know. They were friends of friends, who basically were of the opinion that we should throw Sarah Palin overboard because the media had destroyed her and there was no way of saving her. And since she's done, it's just a waste of time. Plus, she's stupid. And I, having told you this story before, will rein it in. I said, so you guys want to let the media pick our candidates. And the media disqualifies somebody, they're gone. Now, that's pretty much right. I mean, if the media can destroy them, Rush, then what good are they? I said, so you're perfectly fine. You don't care to defend anybody. You don't care if somebody really thinks what you think and believes what you believe, you think it'd be good for them. If the media can destroy them, because they can destroy anybody, then we should just let them go. And they said, yep, cut them loose. And that's basically what our first caller said today. So look, you guys got to realize you're not going to win this in Indiana. They should have never brought this up. They should have never written this bill. They should have never even entered this whole arena where they're going to be perceived as taking on militant homosexuals, because there's no way we Republicans are ever going to win. It was a stupid thing to do. Pence should have known it. So she's asking me, do I think that's the right way to go about this? I do not, because you'll cede every issue to people that way. If you're of the opinion that you can't beat X, Y, and Z, then why would you even try if you're going to further damage yourself by trying to defeat them? That's what the guy was saying. Now, I disagree with that totally. I think all of this is political. Every bit of it. It's not about who you love. That's just what this is. It's not about love and marriage and devotion. It's all political. It's all part of the Democrat left-wing agenda, and there's no question that this is, in part, an effort to influence the justices on the Supreme Court who are deciding the Burwell case over subsidies for Obamacare and just any other thing that might come up that negatively impacts the Obama agenda. And, of course, same-sex marriage is also at the Supreme Court. And he thinks this is explicitly aimed at that. And I don't think there's any question that militants like this, they are bullies, and they attempt to gain victory via intimidation. And they're trying to intimidate anybody who might stand up and oppose them. How else? That's exactly how it works. As I mentioned earlier in the busy broadcast today, let's go look at the case in New Mexico, where we had a photographer. A lady owns a little photography store, and in walks a gay couple wanting her to photograph their wedding. She says, no, my religion opposes gay marriage, and it would be immoral for me. So they go to the news media, they make a big news story out of it, lawsuits left and right, intimidate this poor woman. She's the worst example of living, breathing bigotry that there is. And they end up putting her out of business. And the way that happened was her existing clientele were frightened into staying away. Once her store became publicly known by everybody, and once her photography shop, her studio, was associated with anti-gay bigotry, and every existing customer she had saw exactly what happened to her, they said, you know what? I don't want these people coming after me, so I'm not going to patronize this studio. And she lost her customer base. And the same thing happened to a bakery. I think it was in Denver, somewhere in Colorado. Same thing. The existing clientele end up being intimidated into staying away because they think that the activists are keeping a sharp eye on anybody that goes in that store, and they could be targeted too. And so the first caller today probably would agree. Yeah, that's the only sensible thing to do. Just don't patronize these places because you're just going to end up being a target yourself. And that's the objective. this kind of intimidation, at the end of it, how can you blame the gay activists? Look, the bakery went out of business and the photography studio went out of business. All we did was ask them to photograph our wedding, and they said no, and they go out of business. That's kind of justified, right? They're bigots and they're homophobes. But that's not why they went out of business. They went out of business because everybody's scared to death. So this law comes along to protect the scared to death. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act basically says, a shield, it basically says that people like this cannot be discriminated against, cannot lose their businesses because of religious views. It's not a weapon. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act does not give anybody the ammunition to discriminate against or otherwise be bigoted against anybody else. It's been totally misconstrued, misreported. But that's the name of the game. Just like Ferguson was misconstrued and misreported. The Duke LaCrosse rape case, totally made up, not one shred of evidence to back up what everybody thought was the truth there. And the fact that the Duke LaCrosse case was exposed as a fraud, that's the exception to the rule. Most of these stories don't end up being exposed. Ferguson has been exposed, but you never know it. The protesters are still there. They're still trying to wreak havoc on the community. They're still importing protesters from outside the city, in many cases the states. So the worst thing you can do is back away from it. I think what Pence should have done, this is just off the top of my head, and I don't like actually doing this because it's easy for somebody like me, not even Indiana, to sit here and say, well, you know what he should have done? I would do this. But this is what I would have done if I'd have been involved and thought about it. I'd have gone out there and said, you know what? You want the law changed? Fine. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rewrite this law so that it is word for word what Chuck Schumer wrote in 1993 and Bill Clinton signed into law. I would find a way to throw this back on the Democrats rather than sit there and act like I have to make excuses for myself, which I don't think I ever have to do, and I don't think you do either. I don't think you need to make excuses for the things that you believe. You're not a bigot. You're not a racist. You don't discriminate against people. You have a religious objection maybe to gay marriage. You may think, marriage is, by definition, man and a woman. They're changing the definition of words here to make this all look legit and kosher, but it's not anti-gay. It's people that are opposed to the definition of marriage changing because they have a religious belief in what marriage is. And this law simply provides a shield for them that they supposedly can't be harmed for holding that view. This thing is so out of focus and out of whack. It's not the businesses that are doing the discriminating. It's the other way around. Anyway, got to take a break here, folks, because once again, I happen to have gone long in a segment. I don't know what everybody's so hysterical about. The photographer in New Mexico, Elaine Hagenin was her name. The name of her company was Elaine Photography. She refused service for the 2007 commitment ceremony of a lesbian couple. She lost her business. They've got a Religious Freedom Restoration Act in New Mexico. It did not save her business. The Colorado baker was a guy named Jack Phillips. He owned the Masterpiece Bakery. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act did not save Elaine's company either, nor the bakery. The federal law did not save, nor the New Mexico law did not save the business. I didn't even shield them. I don't know why, but I don't know what everybody's so hysterical about because the law didn't even stop the discrimination by the militant homosexuals in this case. Anyway, I have to make these points because they're literally, when stories like this hit the news, none of it is true. It's striking how little factual truth there is to these highly charged, emotional, culture-related stories. Look at here. Despite there being an RRFA law in the books in New Mexico since 2000, in 2012, the New Mexico Court of Appeals unanimously upheld a claim against the photography studio that refused to take pictures of the gay wedding. In 2013, the New Mexico Supreme Court upheld that ruling in a unanimous decision. The U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear the case. Even with the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, the photography studio lost her business. See you tomorrow, folks. Have a good one.